Hello ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you how to change the motor and regulator on a BMW E46, which is a 3 Series. These commonly shit out regulators and motors, and this car's done about 3 of them. We had this one that's in there now done like 3 months ago, and it's just died again. I think it's just the motor, so I was just going to replace the motor, but I might just replace the whole lot, I'm not too sure yet. But here's the brand new one, just down here. That's the brand new one. All them tools. So we got that sent out for free because this does have a 2-year warranty and it's only lasts about 3 months. I'll show you what sound the door is making. So sometimes when the regulator fails, your window won't even go up or down, or it will just fall down, or it will make really bad sounds like this one does. So have a listen to this. So down is perfectly fine, but when we come up, you'll hear a few, as we reach the top, you'll hear a few crunches coming from around here, which is where the motor is, and you'll hear a big grinding sound as the window hits the top. See that? So it sounds like the motor's got stripped teeth or something, or it's not, the clutch isn't stopping when it reaches the top like it's supposed to. So first thing you want to do is clear your door pockets of anything you have in there, because what we're going to be doing now is removing the door trim. So it's pretty easy. Tools you'll need is just, you'll need a socket set for once you get past this part. There might be, from memory, there's some hex heads inside the door trim here, and these come in really handy. They're just trim removal, so you don't damage anything. Apart from that, it's just pretty much general tools: flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, and a socket set. But like I said, you'll probably need those hex heads because they're very common on European cars. So I'm going to start taking the door trim off so we can have a look. First, on the E46, we're going to pop off this trim here. This comes off pretty nicely, and some of these might get left behind, so make sure you replace them. Put them back on here later. This one looks like it's broken or come unglued, so I don't think that's going to go back on, but that's just the way it is. Then here we have there a hex head, one of those weird hex head things, whatever they're called. One there and one there, so we're going to be removing them. And one thing, if you're going to be working on your car a lot, especially BMWs, you should invest in a toolbox, a little toolkit just like this, because it comes with a whole bunch of sockets, and it also comes with these things we're going to be using today, which are as I said, they're very common on BMWs and other European cars. So I'm going to find our right size now, and we're going to take out those two bolts. Alright, so the size of this is actually a T20, and what I was saying before, hex heads and all that stuff, it's called a Torx bit, so I just remembered that. So it's a T20 Torx, so we're going to remove these now, one up here. They come out pretty easily, they shouldn't be too tight. And make sure you put your screws or bolts and everything like that in a place where you're not going to lose them, so you can put it all back together nicely. These can be really hard to get up, so I mean, you might have to use a screwdriver, but just be careful. This one's already been mangled from whoever's had the door off before. So I'm just going to remove that one now. I think it should be a T20, same size as the others. Yep. And while this power window switch is out, we're just going to unplug it because it's going to be easy to get our door trim off. So there's 2 plugs there. Yours might be different. This is the driver's side, remember? So passenger side on an E46 won't have one of these. Oh, sorry, this is the mirror switch. So yeah, obviously there's only one on the driver's side. Sorry, I was thinking it was the power window switch like my car. My power window switches are mounted on the door, whereas in the E46 they're mounted on the center console. And you'll also find there's actually 2 screws under these plastic caps, so we're going to pop them off. There you go. And just work your way along, and you'll hear them pop. Alright, so once we've undone those 2 screws and the 2 up there, and the one behind the power mirror switch, I'm going to pull the bottom of the door trim up. Then what you want to do is get the door trim up over the lock here, so pull it up and just keep rocking it, and it will unclip. Just like that. It does feel like you're breaking stuff when you're taking door trims off, but it's just the way it is. Alright, so once the door trim's off, you're going to need to disconnect some wires and stuff so you can get the trim off the car. So first you've got the door handle, you just pull it up like this, that pops off, so our door handle's released and we've got a bit more room to work with. So we'll have to unplug our speaker here. There's just 2 plugs that you pinch together. It's a real cold day, so my hands are having a real hard time grabbing all this stuff. That's off, so What's left is those wires from that power mirror switch, which we can push through the door, like so. There's 2 of those, don't know what that was. And that's it, adds all trims completely off. Alright, so as you can see, we're greeted with what's called a vapor barrier. This is what stops water getting into your door trim. So what I'm going to actually do first is peel this side of the vapor barrier back so I can just see what we're working with. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to turn the car on and see if I can hear where that sounds, hear or see where that sound's coming from. So it's definitely the motor in there. It sounds like it's missing teeth, or it's not, the clutch isn't working. So as it hits the top, it's supposed to actually stop spinning. But it sounds like that's actually broken. Alright guys, so as I said before, I think it is just the motor that's the problem here. So I might only change the motor. If I only change the motor, the title of the video will be how to change a motor in an E46. If I end up doing the regulator, the title will be how to change a motor and regulator in an E46. So I'm going to see if I can replace the motor without touching the regulator, because it would be a much easier job and much faster. So what we're going to do is remove the cabling there from the motor, and then I hope and I think that if we just undo these 3 screws, the motor will possibly come out and we'll be able to put a new one in. Alright, so that this plug's a bit hard to get out, so I'm going to try and remove the motor first, because then I'll get a bit more leverage and might be able to actually just pull the plug out that way. So hopefully with these 3 screws it just comes out. I'm not sure, I've never actually just pulled the motor off before. I've always had the whole regulators out in my car. Well, it looks like it's going to fall out, which is good. Possibly twist it down or something. That's it. So as you can see, that's where the motor goes into the power window. And on the last time this one broke, the factory one, all this was just rounded out, so that was the original problem. And also the cables in the regulator broke, so it's quite common, all the plastic parts. Apparently there's like a zip tie fix you can do, not on the motor but on the regulator, but by the time you get all the regulator out, there's no point in repairing it with the zip tie. You got everything out, you may as well just buy a new regulator. These were cheap, so I'm not really complaining that they did break, because they're only about 60 Australian dollars, I think, from memory, so not much at all. But I'm going to attempt now to just put the motor in without doing the whole regulator. See if it works. If it doesn't, we'll do the whole regulator. Right, so I'm just going to remove the motor off the new assembly, and we're just going to try the motor, because like I said, if I can get away with not replacing the regulator, I'd love to do that, because I mean the regulator's not too hard, but you've got to take the glass out of the door, or you have to at least lift it up all the way to the top, and it's a much bigger job. And like I said, we've already done this like 3 times on this car, so I'm no longer interested. So, wish me luck. I'm going to plug the new one in, and we're going to mount the motor back. Hopefully it goes in. That, and we twist it back like that. We screw it in, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully there's no more grinding, and that's it, job done. If not, this is coming out again. Whenever you're screwing things up that are like this, don't screw one up all the way, because otherwise you might not get the others in. So I like to screw them all in loosely, and then just work at them one at a time after that. Alright, it's time to test this motor. Alright, so we're going to give this a try now, going all the way down and all the way up. I hope it's fixed. Yep, loving life at the top. So this video will be titled how to replace a motor, because I'm not going to do the regulator if I don't have to. They're only 3 months old. Now I'm going to put the door trim back together. Rolling? F you, Missy, I told you. You ruined my video. Alright, so we're putting the trim back on. Just make sure your wires are clear. This one went in underneath originally. Make sure everything's free when you're putting your vapor barrier back on. Give it a nice stick all around. And next step, we gotta bring the door trim back on, hang it over, and make sure all our wires are plugged in and back through. We'll go grab the door trim now. So before we officially clip the trim on, I'm gonna plug the speaker and that back in. And before you actually fully hook up all the stuff in your door trim, might be a good idea to turn your radio on and make sure your speakers are working, which we'll do in a moment. Push those back through. On the E39 there's a ton more wires than this car because you have your power window switches on the door trim. If you've got seat memory and things like that, you'll probably have more plugs and switches, but this one's pretty simple. So we've got all our stuff through. I'm just going to turn the radio on just so make sure the speaker's working properly. So we're all working. Doing that. Alright, turn it off. Oh. Alright, so we've got our wires through, speaker's working. Now, we're gonna have to do this little thing. Alright, so this is the door handle little thing. You just gotta slide that, oops, got stuck on something. It just goes in like that, down and clips in. Alright, so we're all back together. Now what you want to do is make sure everything works. Test your power mirror switch, if you have seat memory, test all that. Make sure the door handle works, make sure the window goes up and down. Make sure to subscribe. I'll see you soon.